It says you are live. Hi, Cara.
Hi, Debbie. How are you?
Oh, good, really good. Um, okay, so we are short a couple of people today. I think we're thinking about having a short show anyway. But Cara, I'm going to let you talk, and then I think you have a ghost story for us.
I do. Um, but I want to say, everyone, I am so sorry that last week's show had to be canceled. But unfortunately, my son, who is a diabetic and a father of four, um, developed influenza, which turned into double pneumonia, and it caused him to go into ketoacidosis, which anyone who I'm sure some of you know about diabetes, when your blood sugar goes out of whack and it just gets really higher and higher with infection when you have an infection, um, it causes problems with your pancreas and your liver and your kidneys. So it was in really bad shape, so I had to cancel the show in order to help with him. And then he was rushed to the hospital and was in the ICU until late last night. He's still not doing well, but he's home, at least with his children who missed him terribly. But because he's been sick for 3 weeks, um, they kind of have hit a financial snag. And we wanted to see or get the word out that there is a GoFundMe. But if you don't choose or like to use GoFundMe, you can message Psychic Fixes or the Ghost Stories page, and Debbie and I can give you their address and what the kids like, if you'd like to send a gift to them, or even a gift for Zach and Stevie. I know that they're really having a rough time, and any donation, anything is appreciated for the family right now. He works for WPS, and he's trying to get the short-term disability, but even if they approve him for that, while he recoups the next 2 or 3 weeks, he may not get paid for 2 or 3 weeks. And with the heating costs and everything else, and taking care of four children,
And it,
it's a big
it's
deal.
Christmas, and it's
Yeah,
Christmas.
it
So you
is.
guys, and we'll talk about it at the end of the show a little bit too. But if you'd like to send one of the kids or all the kids a little gift, you have that opportunity. Just get a hold of me or Kara, and get them through this rough time right now, especially a month or so, because all the bills will come due and Santa needs to come. So
Definitely. And the kids range in age from 8 years old. We got 8 years old, 6 years old, 3.5, and 18 months. So it's kind of that sweet spot at Christmas where Santa is coming and he's bringing toys, and I'd hate for them to miss out on having that joy of Christmas morning. It's really sad for the whole family.
and
Uh,
having dad sick and in bed too. I mean, he had a tough go in ICU, lots of stuff happening, and he's still, very ill now. So
yeah,
he said he has been in my prayers and all of that, and my thoughts, and so we appreciate the viewers to consider if you can to help the family out. Okay, Kara, we were going to have a couple people here. They couldn't make it. And but I do know that you have a ghost story. We always love our ghost stories.
oh yes, and this one goes way back, um, to there was a family in Illinois that the father owned a wealthy car dealership, and they had three children, and of course his wife. And unfortunately, one night, it was a stormy night. Um, the mother and father were murdered in their home. And one of the children lived in like the guest house, and the other two, I don't know if they were home when the actual murders happened or if they had, heard anything. Um, but it was a pretty horrific scene. And as a matter of, and the kids kind of closed rank with each other. Um, there was speculation that one of the children actually did the killing. And, but the house lay dormant. The children still owned it, and it lay dormant for a while. And there were a lot of people who said they saw things on the grounds of the house. They saw people, shadows and things in the windows. Kids used to try and sneak in to get a peek, or dare each other to go in, to the haunted house. And finally, one night, out of nowhere, the house went up in absolute flames, and it was arson. And they couldn't figure out, who started it, why it was started, but the house was literally, it was, I mean, and by the way, this was like a mansion. This guy owned several car dealerships, and it was just down to just beams, like a shell. Um, Fast forward, someone buying the land and building a new house. There have been reports of feeling like you're being watched, or cold spots in certain parts of the upstairs of the house, which is probably where the parents' bedroom would have been in the old house. And it's a very tragic story. I don't want to give the name because even though um there's one sibling left alive. The sister was killed in a car accident a couple of years after the murders. So I don't want to give their name, but it was such a tragedy. And it's, to this day, you have to feel for, especially the family members that had no involvement whatsoever. You have to feel for them and the pain that they went through, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, can you imagine building a house on land that was once the home of a horrific murder?
Right, and I can see where that is like a solution. Nobody wants to move into the same house, so let's build a house, and it doesn't mean that the energy goes away.
No, it doesn't.
And
The energy stays with that property.
right, and the thing is, there's just such a stories and stories about uh, like combustible things, just fire starting by themselves in homes, and, all these unknown things of how something happens in there to destroy the home and all of that. And you've got to know that it has to be that dark energy that's in there and something manipulating everything that goes in there, even the people's bodies and their minds, right?
Right.
That people kind of change their personality, and then they go a little crazy, and then they want to kill people, and you're going, what happened? Then they go out of the house and they feel fine. And I just heard that recently from somebody, like in the house, the different story, they get out of the house, it's a whole different person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another family too that happened. And actually this family is what is based on the horror film The Stepfather. John List, he and his wife, he was this devout Lutheran, and his mother lived on the third floor of this huge mansion that they had bought. And they had three children and his wife. And so they also had two boys and a girl. Well, John List lost his job, and for months he was skimming money out of his mother's bank account to pay bills to keep the family afloat. instead of talking to his mom and talking to his wife or anything. And as his marriage deteriorated, he became more and more despondent. But instead of killing himself, he waited until his children were off at school one November day, and he killed his wife and took her body and put it in the massive ballroom in their home. Then he went to the third floor where his mother couldn't, she was incapacitated. She lived on the third floor. They would bring her meals to her and everything. He went up there and he shot her through the eye.
Dear God.
And he tried to get her down to the ballroom as well, but she was too heavy for him. So he just left her in the third floor. And then
Oh,
as
Lord.
the children came home from school, he killed each one of his children. And the funny thing is that I think it was his daughter was, someone was telling her, why don't you come to drama class and stuff, and trying to talk her into staying after school. And, she's like, no, I have to get home and things. And so he killed her and the other son. But then he went to meet his third son at school at, I think it was football practice. And he stayed and he watched him practice. And when he got home, he killed that son. And then
Lord.
then he called the school the next day and told them that they had a family emergency and they were going out of town. He turned the heat all the way down in the house. He canceled the, I guess, milk delivery and things. This was the early 70s, so we still had milk delivery. And he packed up his belongings and he walked away. By the time the family was found, they were almost unrecognizable.
Yeah.
But what alerted people is there were lights on. He left all the lights on in the house or put a timer or something on. But slowly, one by one, the lights were burning out. And there was music coming from the house. And eventually that stopped. So they did a welfare check. And when the police entered, they found all of the bodies. And it took a while before they found the body on the third floor.
Yeah.
But that house, now mind you, he wasn't caught for almost 20 years.
Wow.
He was caught thanks to America's Most Wanted.
Oh, great.
Yeah, they covered the story, and his brother-in-law was on there and talked about his sister and his niece and nephews. And they showed an age progression. They had taken a photograph of him and they did an age progression when he was found. By the way, he was remarried.
Oh, gee.
When he was found, the age progression picture and his actual looks were almost identical.
It's great.
Yeah. But that house again had, it was eventually torn down, but that house always had figures walking from room to room, lights that you could see when there's no electricity, you could see like a shuttering of a light. Yeah, it could have been people, sneaking in to get a picture of the murder house or, something, but it was
Cara, would you like if somebody said, "Here, house is free"? Would you have moved into it?
that house with how big it was and how gorgeous. I think I would have, but I definitely would have had it blessed by a priest, a shaman,
Yeah.
a Wiccan priestess, and I would have definitely had every inch of it saged.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it was so elaborate, and I mean, the number of bedrooms and bathrooms and the grand staircase and everything. And I mean, how many houses today do you see have a full ballroom?
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, this house is now torn down too,
Yeah.
but it's it's just so creepy that all these different supernatural things were being felt by neighbors, were being felt by the community, and were unexplained.
And that's really what happens in these houses. I While you were talking, I was thinking about these people that go and kill their kids, or they just go and kill these mass shootings that we have. The one that's from the big box store that just happened, and that girl that survived. He just shot everybody, and then she was there, and then he told her to go home. Looked at
Oh
her
yeah,
and
yes,
told her go home. And I'm just like, how random is this? You just killed off everybody in the workroom and stuff. And then you see her. I guess there was some kind of connection, and told her, by name, to go home. Like he
yeah.
maybe had a lucid moment, and then he was back to it after that. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
insane. And you wonder now, does that mean that the big box store is going to get haunted or what? It's
exactly.
got to be really hard. That's why I think that they tend to tear down houses that have that done. And I wonder why they didn't tear down Lizzie Borden's house, her parents' house.
I don't know, but the wild thing is that that house has that the house next to it has as many hauntings as that house.
Oh, I can see that.
And
Yep.
tragedy struck in that house, and it was by someone who was like a second or third cousin, one generation removed from Lizzie.
Oh, wow.
And
Uh,
that was another house where tragedy stuck, and that was her relative had killed her own children.
mm.
But those children also haunt the third floor of the Borden house.
Wow.
They are
But
felt up there.
you said that they were next to each other, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and people think, some of them think that the ghosts stay there, or new ghosts don't come in or whatever. They do. They have as long as they want to move and they feel like they want to go investigate or whatever, they can. Or if they knew of that place. If you think, okay, I'm thinking about a place, and all of a sudden you're there, you can do that if you're a ghost. And so I can see where, if they were used to going there, or if they liked it over there for some reason, maybe the other ghosts are over there they wanted to see, that they would go over there. And that's the crazy stuff, because they can go out and go to other places as well. Let me
yeah,
tell you this: my girlfriend, I've talked to her about her before. She was born with a veil, so she actually was very, very psychic all her life. But when she was little, she could see the dead people. And so there was a mortuary down from her grandmother's, and they had, the veranda, they had
yeah,
the big front porch wraparound thing. And she would sit there with her grandmother at night. And she said the people would be going down the street. So the people are going, the dead people are gliding with smoke at their feet, she said, straight down the road. But they would have to turn, and she would be right on that veranda right there. And so I told her, I said, they must have known that you could see them, that you could communicate. So they're looking. They just died. They're in the mortuary. They're, probably it would have been before they were buried, of course. And so they're coming out, like, where am I? Where am I? And
yeah.
then they see someone that can seize them, and then when you go that way, hey, hi, where am I? Am I
Yeah.
dead?
W-
Something like that.
And then you have the spirits who are tied to this world because their murders are unsolved, like the axe murder
Yeah.
family.
Mhm.
It
Right.
happened in 1912. It happened the year that my grandmother was born.
Wow.
And they a husband, a wife, all of their children, and two of their church friends' children were all killed.
Oh, gee.
And that house, they actually have where you can do paranormal investigations and you can tour the house. There's even uh they've caught things on the EVPs. They've caught them in pictures. They've caught them on video. Um, but it's very sad because you have, all of these deaths, and they're unsolved, by the way.
Oh,
110 years
wow.
later, it's unsolved.
Mm.
Yeah,
I just saw that they solved uh, one on a little boy, and now they of who he was, his identity. This was decades ago, but they now have solved it, and they put his name. I mean, some of you might have seen it on social media. They finally put the birthday and the little boy's image of what he looked like. So, there's still possibilities that things can happen. The farther we go in time, the more unlikely. But thank goodness for DNA and stuff like that.
yeah. Well,
There's not
there,
like anybody's doing the deathbed confessions. Like, what do you got
well,
to lose? You're in
well, there,
friggin' prison. Go ahead
yeah.
and tell everybody.
With the Axe House murders, they had a few suspects, and there were a
Mm,
couple of them that were really strong. They just didn't have enough evidence to take them to trial.
mm.
you know but the hauntings still continue in that house, and I'm sure they will continue because their deaths were not solved. If someone could communicate with them and find, and maybe release them by finding, or at least stating, okay, we know who killed you, maybe that would help. But I find it very eerie. I know, and this is an eerie subject too, me talking about all these family deaths when I'm dealing with my son. But my son is a big part of the show. We always talk about how haunted his house is and what
Oh,
him and his
very
wife
haunted.
go
Yeah.
through, and things. So it's kind of, it's kind of a good show to showcase some of these hauntings that deal with families.
Kara, we have some new people watching. Why don't you recap about what happened with Zach?
Okay. Shortly after Thanksgiving, my granddaughter, well, shortly before Thanksgiving, my granddaughter came down with influenza A. And my son is a diabetic, so his immune system already is not the greatest. Um, he caught influenza from her. And then his oldest daughter came home with a respiratory infection. And unfortunately, that clung to him too. And because of his diabetes, he couldn't fight it off. So instead of getting better, he was getting progressively worse. Last week, we took him and rushed him to the hospital, and they put him directly into ICU. He was in diabetic ketoacidosis with double pneumonia and influenza A. They, but he's been off work now, going on a little over 3 weeks because of being sick, and they don't think he's going to be going back to work for another 2 weeks until he recuperates fully.
Hmm.
Thank God, his children have been going crazy with missing their daddy. They weren't allowed to go to the hospital because of the
Right,
hospital policy.
right.
He was released late last night from the ICU and sent home on antibiotics, insulin, and um, he's the main thing is that he is now insulin dependent the rest of his life because of the damage that was done to his pancreas and his liver from the infection.
Hmm.
But they don't think he'll be able to go back to work for a few weeks because of the illness. It's going to take they said it was going to be a long recovery. So we started a GoFundMe because unfortunately he was unable to buy Christmas gifts for his children before he got sick. And bills are mounting up. Heating bills are extremely high, everyone knows. And with no money coming in except for a small part-time job that his wife has, um, they don't have anything coming in. So we started a GoFundMe. And also, I know a lot of people don't like GoFundMe, or they don't trust it, or they don't like the fact that they take out high fees. if you want, you can, if you feel like donating anything or getting a toy or something for each child, you can message Debbie and I, and we can give you their home address so you can mail a gift directly to them. If you want to get something for Zach and Stevie, I know that they need a sheet and comforter set. That's what he was planning on buying her for Christmas, but he can't do that now either. But the kids, we have their likes and things, and they're not picky. Anything to make them at least have a good Christmas with how sick their daddy has been.
Yeah, and they definitely need, utility bills paid so that when he gets back to work, he's not going to be behind. So
Yeah, and
I
and
am
he,
so sorry that happened.
yeah, I knew my son has had health issues since he was a child. He had developed a rare form of double pneumonia when he was 5, and he almost died. He was
Mm.
actually given last rites 3 times in the hospital, and they said that his lungs were permanently affected from this. So
Yeah.
it didn't surprise me. I was very sad, but it didn't surprise me that he ended up developing double pneumonia in less than 24 hours. He was admitted to the hospital, and they had done a CT scan with contrast of his chest, and there was no pneumonia there. And less than 24 hours later, they had repeated the CT because of the coughing and the rattling, and he had double pneumonia in less than
Mhm.
24 hours.
Yeah.
And
They're going to get some scar tissue in their lungs when they're young. My son Jeffrey had pneumonia when he was little. So when he contracted it as a teenager, thank goodness I was psychic. He had already gone to the doctor. His dad took him the day before. And when I woke up, it hit me and I went and got him up. I said, I'm so sorry to get you up, but you have pneumonia. You got to get to the doctor now. And I argued, Kara, I argued with the doctor because the doctor said, "Oh, mom, he was just in here yesterday. He has a cold." And I said, "You're going to do a chest x ray." And he just didn't want to. And I said, "You're going to get him. If I have to bring him back again and set in here, he's getting a chest x ray." So they did. And then the doctor came in and said, "Well, mom, you were right." And so, this is not anything to take lightly, when it is pneumonia. To have double
no,
pneumonia, Zach had a lot going wrong, and that was
yeah,
really scary. I know we talked, but we didn't hit on what could happen because he was pretty sick. And
yeah, and
he's still in bed. He's still not, he just seriously just got out of the ICU, guys, just now. So,
he got out late last night, and
oh, last
they
night. Okay.
yeah, it was late last night. It was literally, well, technically it was probably today by, time
Mhm.
standards. But yeah, he got out so late last night, it would have been today. But he's been in bed since he got home.
Of course, he should
His
be.
blood sugar, his wife checked his blood sugar right when he got home, and it was already climbing again. So he had to take insulin right away.
Yeah.
And he's now, because of the damage done to his pancreas and liver and kidneys, he is going to be on insulin the rest of his life.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
our prayers go out for the family and everything, and we are getting the word out that the family could use some help for maybe a couple months
yeah,
and get Zach well, and everybody wants to see kids have presents, and if daddy doesn't feel very well because he's got a little baby, he's got a little 18-month old,
yeah,
and there needs to be some joy put back in that house because it's been a
yeah,
tough, weeks of I remember the kids all got sick, the kids all had flu, and and that extended to you too. I'm going to out you on that.
yeah. It did. I finally recovered from my flu.
Say
But
hi, Julie.
it's really, I feel bad because I mean the kids are at the age where they still, Santa is Santa.
Hmm.
And no matter what, Santa's always going to bring you a toy. So it's like I feel horrible for my son not knowing what he's going to be able to provide for his kids. And I felt bad when I was sitting there, I was in the ICU with him and I was washing his feet. I know that sounds crazy, but he just said, Mom, my feet just feel so bad. So I washed his feet with some warm water and then dried them and then rubbed his feet. And he just started crying and he said, I don't know how I'm going to brighten my kids' Christmas. And it
Right.
just made me so emotional because I've bought what I can, but of course, it's I didn't expect this either and
Right.
and stuff. So I I have felt, awful that, the kids they don't know. They're like, Daddy's home. Now Santa can come and Christmas is gonna be great. And it's like,
It's
you know,
tough. You know what? He needs to just heal and think about that healing and doing good things. He's going to have to learn how to give himself insulin. He's got a lot going on. And so I think that we've had a lot of people share the GoFundMe and all of that. And, I really feel like that he'll be able to concentrate on feeling better so
right.
that hopefully in just a short time when it's Christmas, he'll be able to enjoy the day and
Yeah.
be up and about and all of that.
If you can't afford to donate, please share it. Share his story. I know I have to update the GoFundMe that he's now home, but I was kind of scared to jinx it because I was so afraid that he was going to end up back in the ICU again. Um, it hasn't even been 24 hours, so I was going to wait until tomorrow so that I knew, okay, he's home before I said that he was home because I was so afraid that, because the doctor said, you have to watch for this, you have to watch for
Yeah.
that, you have to,
Mhm.
if he has any of these symptoms, if his fever rate gets above 103 again, you're going to have to bring him back.
Right.
So, and
Well, we know he's not out of the woods yet. Everybody's I'm sure the healers are going to be sending healing, and everybody's going to be praying, and the word is getting out. And just make sure that when you update that, you say he's still recovering, because it's going to be a while. It's going to be quite a while for him to get over this and to get his body in balance and blood sugar and all of that. And I know everybody, is thinking good thoughts for him, Kara.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. And his wife has been extremely worried about him. So she's,
Right.
hopefully, hopefully they have a good, yeah,
I
this is,
I know that you are helping to watch the children. You just took over. What a good mom, you guys. She took over everything after still just coming off of having, I don't know, 8 days in bed did you have with the flu?
yeah,
And then you took over being there for him and with his wife kind of in tandem taking care of the kids. So I know that we were going to make it a short show tonight, and we did get to do a little ghost story talking. You guys will be here next week, I think,
yeah,
and we'll have some really good ghost stories and probably a guest or two, but I know that you probably have to get back to helping with the kids.
yeah. They're standing at the door staring at Gigi. But yeah, they next week we will have a great show, and that'll probably be our last show before the first of the year because of Christmas.
Mhm. Right.
We'll definitely have a good show. And I thank everybody in advance, whatever you can do, to help and spread the word. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys listening to us each week.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yes.
thank you all. And we will see you next week.
Okay. Kara, take care. Take care. Lots of
Thank
prayers.
you. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Good night, everybody.
Night, guys.